Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you I have a mighty game review of Terminator Resistance. I'm going to talk a little bit about the game, how I feel about it, and if it's worth it or not. Let's start off with here, the developer is Teon. Yeah, the same people who developed that god-awful Rambo game. Don't even want to talk about that hot mess. Let's move on to the publisher is Reef Entertainment. So pretty much a developer I've never really heard of except for outside of the Rambo game, and a publisher I never heard of. They used Unreal 4 engine. It was released on Windows PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox January of 2020. However, in the EU, it was released in November of 2019. Not sure why the EU, and only the EU, got a release a few months before everyone else, but there it is for what it's worth. And it is also planned to have a port for PlayStation 5 coming in March of 2021. So for those people with PlayStation 5s that are still console peasants, this game will soon be coming to you. And the idea is you take control of Private Jacob Rivers, who actually later becomes Sergeant as the story unfolds. And he is a resistance fighter for TechCom in a fight against Skynet. This is actually set as, you could say, a prequel to Terminator 1, but technically a sequel to Terminator 2, because it's set in like 2128. And, you know, Terminator with timelines and time travel and everything else, but essentially, the game, as you're playing through the game, it sets up the events of Terminator and Terminator 2. We'll leave it at that. As well as it actually sets up some other stuff. Now, this game also has an Infiltrator mode. I'm not really going to talk too much about it here, but I am going to talk a little bit about it. I do have a video on my YouTube featuring an Infiltrator mode run through, but basically the idea is you're playing as a T-800 infiltrator and you're trying to get information for Skynet and take out a TechCom scientist and a TechCom commander, and as I said, get information for Skynet. The music is really great. You know, it's like right out of the movie for the most part. It's even got, I got a video up of one of this boombox mission you have to get, and it's actually the song from the tech noir scene in Terminator. There's a lot of different themes and stuff like that. It's just right out of the movies. Makes the game really immersive. Really enjoyed that part. The sounds are generally speaking awesome. When you can hear the hydraulics of the Terminators, the T-800s moving around, and the way they stomp around on the concrete and that, it makes it really intimidating, especially when you really don't have any weaponry to deal with the T-800s. And actually, towards the end of the game, you start seeing T-850s. I feel like the weapon selection's great. You got assault rifles, you got pistols, you got the Uzi 9mm. 12 gauge shotgun, you got phase plasma rifle and 40-watt range. You got the Terminator weapons, man, and it's really great for them to be in there. And they're basic choices, you got a pistol, submachine gun, shotgun, assault rifle, and then you got all kinds of other stuff. And then Infiltrator mode adds a couple additional weapons, as I stated. See my video for Infiltrator mode, and I talk more about that. The Infiltrator mode is absolutely free also, by the way, folks. It was a DLC that they did. It was a free update. So everybody, if you haven't already tried that, when you get the game, play through the story, then try the Infiltrator mode, you'll find yourself having a great time. The plasma weapons of the game can be modded. I liked how they did the plasma weapons. You got the Generation 1 weapons, which, God forbid, I did see people making nitpicks about the Generation 1 plasma weapons firing red plasma bolts. But then the Generation 2 plasma weapons fires the familiar purple plasma bolts, and I'm fine with that. You know, it really gave you that idea of that leap forward in technological advancement. The game actually features save houses instead of actual, like you can just save whenever you want, like with most games nowadays. Instead, you have to find certain locations to actually save your game. Plus, it does have an autosave feature, so that's not a really big deal. The game is really immersive. Yeah, like with the guns, your ballistic guns, like the shotgun, the Uzi, the handgun. You can't really do anything to the Terminator, so for the most part, you're just trying to be really sneaky, trying to hide because you know you're pretty much outclassed. And then even when you get the Generation 1 plasma weapons, they're not very powerful, so once again, you're trying to hide, sneak around, because sure, you can defend yourself against one Terminator, maybe two, but when you start getting 3 or more, things get really shaky and out of your favor really quickly. So you're always sneaking around, trying to find things to throw any fights that you're about to get into your favor. Maybe things such as hacking the plasma turrets and taking control of the plasma turrets. There's also plasma containers that you can blow up, fuel tanks, explosive barrels, stuff like that. Anything that you can do to change the battle in your favor, any battle that you're about to be in. Otherwise, you're spending a lot of time just sneaking around, getting from cover to cover, and just trying to avoid fights, especially early in the game. The way the atmosphere is, where you kind of got that haze off way in the distance, and this is with maximum settings. Nothing is turned down whatsoever. The game ran great the whole time. But you know, you got the concrete barriers, and just everything looks like that wasteland, future war setting that they always hinted to in Terminator 1 and 2. The gunplay is great. The great gunplay in general. It's not Escape from Tarkov level, but I have played some games with worse gunplay than this. So they definitely got that right. And generally speaking, they got a good character design. Now, when it comes to how interesting the characters aren't overly interesting, but they're interesting enough to get you looped into the game a little bit more, to learn more about them, to learn their backstories, to gain their trust, if you will. People will give you secondary quests, which I do recommend you do those because it helps gain levels, get additional supplies and things like that to help you fight the Terminators. The stuff I felt was a negative is, well, the AI is a bit stupid, but that being said, that's not really a huge negative. It's kind of one of those weird spots where it's a positive and it's a negative. The AI is not extremely advanced, but if you know anything about the future war scenario outside of what they showed you in like Terminator Salvation, and even outside the Terminator films in general, the AI systems of your standard Terminators was actually not really all that smart. Think of they were the reason TechCom was able to fight the Terminators was not because they were on equal footing. It's because the TechCom fighters were fighting a guerrilla war, and they were smarter. They used numbers. They used team tactics, things of that nature. They could strike with precision when need be, or they could strike with brute force, which is what you see towards the end of the war.
It was wiped out. I'm the only one who survived.
When they're getting ready to take out Skynet.
All right, I'll make sure you get to do that. But first, get us
where
out of here.
On the other side,
Follow
Skynet, the standard Terminator models, even the standard models of the T-800s, not the Infiltrator models, they really weren't that bright. They were just kind of programmed with kill, and that was really about it. There was no tactics really there They were there to be more or less a sledgehammer. The voice acting at times can be a bit weak. It's not horrendous. It doesn't really throw you off in the game. You just kind of notice it a little bit. Character facial models, though, this is the one I noticed the most, because when you're talking to people, it's kind of like the camera like pans right to their face, and it looks like you're about 6 inches from their face. That's definitely noticeable. That didn't really bother me all that too much, but like I said, it was noticeable.
As we eventually
I didn't see any
the beginning of the
major glitches. I didn't get any sound glitches. I didn't have any loading glitches. Nothing like that. I didn't see any AI pathing issues. Even if you got the Terminators to walk off their path, they would easily and very efficiently find their way back to their path and then continue their pathing, their patrolling pathing. So even on that end, even when it comes to that, that's actually some of the highlights, I would say, of the AI, because most games, that tends to be a problem, and that's not actually a problem here. AI pathing is actually really good. I didn't see issues of things clipping through doors or anything like that. I did see some issues where I've seen like bodies clipping through the ground, but that was really about it. But all that being said, there are a couple other things to point out. There's the hacking. The hacking in the game is done. It's like a Frogger mini game. It's kind of lame. I'm not a champion of Frogger, but you know what? It works. It's nothing super special. The lock picking, it very reminiscent to the Fallout games like Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3. Once again, nothing special there. They didn't really do anything in this game that reinvented the wheel per se, but they did everything in a nice, tightly package, tight bundled package that worked really well for the game setting, the game's atmosphere, etc. All that being said, it is a first-person shooter game on Steam right now for $40. And when you consider that it's also got Infiltrator Mode, which adds a little bit more replayability to the game. And in all honesty, in one weekend, I actually played through the whole game twice and also put in a couple rounds of Infiltrator Mode. I personally really enjoyed it. I think if you're a fan of the Terminator franchise, especially the older movies like Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, you'll absolutely love this game. So for the $40 price tag, honestly, folks, I do recommend this. Anyway, that's it for me, folks. That's my review of Terminator Resistance. Once again, recommended. Couldn't praise the game enough. And actually, I do hope to even maybe see a sequel to this game or even some additional content made for the game. Anyway, folks, thank you very much for tuning in, watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see you again for my next video.